This is Kelly Hill, technology reporter for RCR Wireless News. I'm here at IWCE 2016. Just finished up a panel with Steve Fallin of NetMotion Wireless. Steve, let's talk a little bit about key takeaways from your presentation.
I think what we want to focus on with NetMotion are the effects of the technology and that it's going to have on the lives of the first responders. So I talked a lot about what are we hearing from the operational side of all the public safety users that we talk to, and how they need to experience this new network, however it gets built. I mean, whatever technology or whatever vendor wins the ultimate bid.
And it sounds like on an operational level, there's a lot of people who still don't realize that FirstNet is coming, that that there are these sort of new features and functions and a network of their own in the offing.
Or even what it is.
Yeah.
I think the FirstNet and the state points of contact have been very good about talking to sort of the executive level stakeholders in all of the states. A lot of great feedback has been happening. Our conversations have been with people at the operational level, and they're still asking me questions like, well, what is FirstNet? When will I be able to get it? Will I need to buy new equipment? Why can't I just keep using what I'm using because I'm happy with it? Those sorts of things. So very, very fundamental.
And so the topic of our discussion today was priority and preemption on commercial networks. I think the general consensus was that preemption is only going to happen on band 14 on FirstNet, that preemption, kicking people off the network deliberately, is not going to happen on commercial networks. So, talking about prioritization, but in the context of FirstNet, when we talk about that ability to, as we had Declan Ganley of Rivada put it, ruthlessly preempt, what are some of the enablers for that actually allow that to happen, once you are on a band 14 network?
Well, clearly there's going to be technology in the radio network that will be able to identify people, applications, maybe devices or roles that those devices and people have, and some sort of a decision is going to need to be made as to who gets what level of access and when. But ultimately, a lot of this is going to be still held captive to the physics of radio. Mm-hmm. Priority, preemption, QoS technologies, none of those are sufficient in and of themselves to make sure that end users get the experience they desire. Mm-hmm. Because you're still held captive to RF. And if you don't have a sufficient signal to move the data, mm-hmm. then having first shot at an insufficient amount of throughput isn't really a huge benefit.
So coverage, capacity, throughput, all of those factors?
Yeah, I mean coverage is one thing. You have to have a broad coverage over your service area, but your tower density has to be sufficient that you're never so far away from a tower that your throughput is next to useless. Mm-hmm. So for instance, if you are postulating an interjurisdictional incident between two towers, and you're going to have maybe 30 or 40 people there, mm-hmm. How far away you are from those towers will dictate how much data you can cram through the pipe. And that's a question that we think needs to have a lot more attention, because it's all about, well, what can you do with what you have, not where can you connect.
Great. Any other thoughts on what you've been seeing at the show this week? You guys have been here since Monday. What's intriguing you? What have you been hearing that has been of interest?
I think probably the most encouraging thing that we've seen is all of the frank discussion about the strengths and weaknesses of the current plan, the RFP. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of people holding back, and out of that exchange of views and understanding conversations. Obviously, nobody can talk to the feds right now. That's cool, but there's a lot of other people we can talk to. Mm-hmm. Everybody's approaching this with a sense of goodwill. Everybody understands the business realities. Everybody knows that FirstNet is going to have a compelling value proposition, and that the end user experience is going to have to be sufficiently better than it is on carrier today, or FirstNet's not going to succeed in its mission.
Okay. Thanks so much for your time, Steve.
Oh, my pleasure, Kelly.